So this is a video that I definitely feel like I didn't think I would be making a month ago, just because I'm pretty sure everyone and their dad thought that this pick would be getting traded to Essendon for Zach Merritt. But obviously, the Hawthorn Football Club are going into now the 2025 AFL draft with a very important pick that they probably didn't think they were going to have. I don't know if they really wanted it. They wanted to trade for Zach Merritt, but that kind of fell through, and now they're going into the draft with pick 10, and I don't think it's a bad thing at all. In fact, I still think there are a couple of really good players that the Hawks could select to continue to add to their team and continue to build with this really good young core and help contend, for an AFL premiership going forward next year. So in today's video, I will be talking about who I think the Hawks should be selecting with pick 10 in the 2025 AFL draft. Now, there are a couple options, and I feel like this isn't going to be a situation where Hawthorn are probably going to go best available. I think for every single other team that I've talked about so far, whether it's Richmond, West Coast, Melbourne, Essendon, I've really tried to go best available with the players I think that they will be taking, just because I think that that's the position they're all in. But when it comes to Hawthorn, they are a premiership caliber team who are trying to fill in the remaining missing pieces that they believe they, of course, have. And one of the positions I believe Hawthorn need, in my opinion, one of the only positions they probably need, is a inside midfielder, and that's why they desperately tried to go for Zach Merritt, because Zach Merritt obviously could have added a lot of different things that the Hawks really do need. The other issue with Hawthorn as well that no one's really talking about other than Zach Merritt not being on their team now is that Will Day, arguably their best player, their tall inside midfielder, is always injured. Like, you could literally look at that guy, look that man in the eyes, and somehow he's freaking dislocating his penis or some shit. I don't know. He's got a different injury every single week. So I feel like that's another hole that they honestly, unfortunately, have kind of had now, just due to the fact that he can't seem to stay on the park. And I'm going to hope that this is going to be a different year for him in 2026, but we'll see how that is. When you take that into effect, Will Day, and obviously them not getting Zach Merritt, I definitely think they're going to be looking at an inside midfielder here. Now, there's 3 players that I believe that they could very well go on target that will be available most likely at this pick. Of course, the first one does happen to be Sam Grlj. There is still a chance that Sam Grlj does fall to Hawthorn, but I'm going to mention him first because I genuinely believe he could be the outsider of the 3 guys that I'm about to talk about, because again, as we know, Sam Grlj could very well be taken by Essendon or Richmond, or even Melbourne for that matter, and I believe he probably will be taken by Melbourne if my draft projections do go right. Obviously, Sam Grlj is 182 centimeter inside midfielder who adds an insane amount of burst from the stoppage, inside speed, compared to a modern day Max Holmes and a younger Chris Judd. I think when it does come to Sam Grlj, Hawthorn are looking for a lot of different things in that inside, and Sam Grlj does fit a lot of the needs. The only thing is as well with Sam Grlj is in his first couple years, I don't know if he will be a midfielder. It could very well be a similar situation where he starts off the half-back line like Max Holmes did, and Richmond even put this to the test when they played him as a half-back in their VFL for a couple games, where he played some really good footy, had a lot of bursts off half-back, a lot of great run, and even dominated Zeke Hewland, the number 2 prospect, when they played against the Gold Coast Suns as well. So I don't know if Hawthorn, that could be a downside of it. It depends if they think he's going to straight away come in and be an inside midfielder, or he's going to be a half-back to start, like how Richmond may be overall perceiving him. So that's going to be the interesting one. The downsides are he might not be available at this pick, and he might have to start as a half-back. Upsides are he does fill in a lot of what Hawthorn needs if he does become a very good midfielder. And, I mean, he would be the midfield help as well. So he is one. But the other one I wanted to talk about, this is an interesting one because I don't know what the situation's going to be with him, but I thought I'd talk about him. And that does happen to be Max King, the 192 centimeter midfielder slash key forward now, who is a Sydney Swans Academy prospect. And the thing with this is that I believe Sydney do still think they're going to get him. You know, they traded all their first round picks for Charlie Curnow, and they traded away a lot of assets, which could be difficult of, you know, matching Max King. But currently Max King is ranked 25 in this draft, which is interesting because he was previously ranked in the top 10. So Sydney may believe that he's going to be picked at 25, which they could easily go ahead and match. But if Hawthorn do fancy Max King and decide to put a bid on him here, pick 10, that could be really interesting to see if he may slip through and if Sydney are going to actually have the assets to try and match that, or if Sydney are going to pass on that, because I don't know if they believe he will go this high. But there's a lot of things to love, you know, with Max King if you're Hawthorn. Yes, he played a lot of footy as a forward as of late, but the first half of the year he was playing a ton of inside midfield as that bigger, taller body, and he played really well. It does say there's upside to build on with King, who has the outright winner of the vertical jump test at the combine with a leap of 80 centimeters and came in the top 10 the running vertical jump test. The Sydney Academy prospect athletic traits have never been in doubt, and it's that leap that has seen him often fly for big grabs or attempt some unlikely marks inside the forward line. The Swans will have first call on matching a bid on King. So it also kind of asks the question, do you see him as a midfielder or do you see him as a forward? Clearly Sydney, I think, see him as a forward, and that's why they've been playing him there. And the reason they see him as a forward is because they've obviously just moved on from Will Hayward, who was their taller high half forward. So they're going to see themselves bringing in Charlie Curnow now to be their assertive number one key forward. They're going to have their other tall key forwards around him. But then now they're probably going to see that Will Hayward replacement as the Max King. But that doesn't mean that a team like Hawthorn shouldn't be looking at him here, especially at pick 10. If the Hawks believe he will be a midfielder in the game, which he has played a ton of footy at as well and has looked really impressive as an athletic tall who moves decently well in there. And with you constantly losing Will Day, it could be one to look at. You know, Henry Hustway is another tall option they've got in that midfield who I think is developing nicely, but we'll have to see if he does come into play and how that goes. You know, I overall think Max King is possibly a better prospect than what he is. But then there's also other alternative of, if Max King doesn't work as a midfielder, Jack Gunston's like 49 years old, playing as a high half, playing as the full forward at this point, was a high half forward in his earlier years, but he's like that, you know, 191 centimeter. I think that's like how tall he is, that type of option of what should be like a third tall kind of height. Max King could go on to replace him in the future, especially with him probably retiring in the next couple of years, if that's something they look at as well. So I think they could 100% bid on him. Will they get him? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But the one I really like Hawthorn selecting here is the one that they were absolutely all over and in love with, and even tried to claim him as an NGA prospect. And that does happen to be Oliver Greeves, the 191 centimeter inside midfielder from that Eastern Rangers Premiership team. Greaves was unavailable to test at the draft combine through illness, with the midfielder ruled out of participating. But the midfielder has put up some very good performances this season, and it's the capacity to go forward and be a threat that has clubs considering him early on as well. He kicked 4 goals too from 35 disposals. 35 disposals and 4 goals in the Eastern's preliminary final, and also had 24 disposals and a goal in the grand final. A bigger bodied midfielder who can easily shift forward and be a marking target. Yeah, I mean, this one is one you should absolutely be falling in love with. If you are the Hawthorn Footy Club, I still think they need maybe some height in that midfield and some actual contested inside game there, especially if Will Day's injured. You know, Warple, they did just lose, and even though Warple can sometimes get hate from Hawthorn fans, it's not like Warple was a bad player by any means. He was a good player who played in a lot of Hawthorn finals games, previously won a best and fairest for them and played a role. Could still be a miss, you know, especially considering they didn't get Zach Merritt now. So Oliver Greeves, I think, could be a really good option for them, and I like him as a player. I think he's got some comparisons to Josh Smiley, and even though we haven't seen Smiley on the park yet through injuries, we know Smiley will hopefully be an amazing player in the AFL for Richmond. So I think this could be a very good pick by Hawthorn. It just makes sense. I think he's the one that they're going to go with. They have already been in love with him with the NGA and trying to get him to be a Hawks player. They really wanted it to happen. Didn't work, but I still think they're a massive chance to, of course, go ahead and select him now, pick 10 in the 2025 AFL draft. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all those AFL content and AFL news. Don't forget to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions if you guys agree with what I've had to say about this draft so far and who I think Hawthorn should potentially be taking. Again, I very much like to know all your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Make sure to do all that. Go subscribe to my gaming/movie channel, which will also be linked down below. And give my Instagram a follow, which will be down below as well. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.